Nehemias, chapters 12 and 13. Now these are the priests and the Levites that went up with Zorobabel, the son of Salathiel, and Jesus, Seraiah, Jeremiah, Ezra, Amariah, Malluch, Shechaniah. These were the chiefs of the priests and their brethren in the days of Jesus. And the Levites were Jesus, Banui, Kadmiel, Serabiah, Jodi, Mathaniah. He was over the bands, and his brethren were appointed to the daily courses. And Jesus begot Joachim, and Joachim begot Eliasib, and Eliasib begot Jodi, and Jodi begot Jonathan, and Jonathan begot Jaddu. And in the days of Joachim, his brethren, the priests, and the heads of the families were belonging to Seraiah, Amariah, to Jeremiah, Ananiah, to Ezra, Mesullam, to Amariah, Johanan, to Amaluk, Jonathan, Shechaniah, Joseph, to Ari, Manas, to Marioth, Elkai, to Adadai, Zechariah, to Ganathoth, Mesullam, to Abiah, Zechri, to Miamin, Maadai, to Belete, 1, to Bagas, Samui, to Semiah, Jonathan, to Joarib, Mathane, to Ediah, Ozai, to Saleh, Calais, to Amek, Abed, to Elkiah, Asabias, to Jediah, Nathaniel. The Levites in those days of Eliasib, Joada, and Joah, and Johanan, and Idua were recorded heads of families, also the priests in the reign of Darius the Persian. And the sons of Levi, heads of families, were written in the book of the Chronicles, even to the days of Johanan the son of Elsui. And the heads of the Levites were Asabiah, and Sarabiah, and Jesu. And the sons of Kadmiel, and their brethren over against them, were to sing hymns of praise according to the commandment of David, the man of God, course by course. When I gathered the porters, it was in the days of Joachim, the son of Jesus, son of Josedek, and in the days of Nehemiah, and Esdras the priest was the scribe. And at the dedication of the wall of Jerusalem, they sought the Levites in their places, to bring them to Jerusalem to keep a feast of dedication and gladness with thanksgiving. And they sounded cymbals with songs, and had psalteries and harps. And the sons of the singers were assembled, both from the neighborhood round about to Jerusalem, and from the villages, and from the country. For the singers built themselves villages by Jerusalem, and the priests and Levites purified themselves, and they purified the people, and the porters, and the wall. And they brought up the princes of Judah on the wall, and they appointed 2 great companies for thanksgiving. They passed on the right hand on the wall on the dug gate. And after them went Hosea, and hath the princes of Judah, and Azarias, and Esdras, and Mesullam, and Judah, and Benjamin, and Semeas, and Jeremiah. And some of the sons of the priests with trumpets, Zacharias, son of Jonathan, son of Salmeas, son of Mathaniah, son of Micaiah, son of Zachar, son of Asaph, and his brethren, Semaia, and Oziel, and Galul, Jammah, Aiah, Nathaniel, and Judah, Anani, to praise with the hymns of David the man of God. And Esdras the scribe was before them at the gate, to praise before them. And they went up by the steps of the city of David, in the ascent of the wall, above the house of David, even to the water gate of Ephraim, and to the fish gate, and by the tower of Anamiel, and as far as the sheep gate. And the singers were heard, and were numbered. And in that day they offered great sacrifices, and rejoiced. For God had made them very joyful, and their wives and their children rejoiced. And the joy in Jerusalem was heard from afar off. And in that day they appointed men over the treasuries, for the treasures, the firstfruits, and the tithes, and for the chiefs of the cities who were assembled among them, to furnish portions for the priests and Levites. And there was joy in Judah over the priests, and over the Levites that waited. And they kept the charges of their God, and the charges of the purification, and ordered the singers and the porters, according to the commandments of David and his son Solomon. From the days of David, Asaph was originally first of the singers, and they sang hymns of praise to God. And all Israel in the days of Zorobabel, and in the days of Nehemias, gave the portions of the singers and the porters a daily rate, and consecrated them to the Levites, and the Levites consecrated them to the sons of Aaron. In that day they read in the book of Moses in the ears of the people, and it was found written in it, that the Ammonites and Moabites should not enter into the congregation of God forever, because they met not the children of Israel with bread and water, but hired Balaam against them to curse them. But our God turned the curse into a blessing, and it came to pass, when they heard the law, that they were separated, even every alien in Israel. And before this time, Eliasib the priest dwelt in the treasury of the house of our God, connected with Tobias. And he made himself a great treasury, and there they were formerly in the habit of bestowing the offerings, and the frankincense, and the vessels, and the tithe of the corn, and the wine, and the oil, the ordered portion of the Levites, and singers, and porters, and the first fruits of the priests. But in all this time I was not in Jerusalem, for in the 32nd year of Arthasasta, king of Babylon, I came to the king, and after a certain time I made my request of the king. And I came to Jerusalem, and I understood the mischief which Eliasib had done in the case of Tobias, in making for him a treasury in the court of the house of God. And it appeared very evil to me. So I cast forth all the furniture of the house of Tobias from the treasury. And I gave orders, and I purified the treasuries, and I stored the vessels of the house of God, and the offerings and the frankincense. And I understood that the portion of the Levites had not been given, and they had fled every one to his field, the Levites and the singers doing the work. And I strove with the commanders, and said, Wherefore has the house of God been abandoned? And I assembled them, and set them in their place. And all Judah brought a tithe of the wheat, and the wine, and the oil into the treasuries, to the charge of Shelemiah the priest, and Zadok the scribe, and Padiah of the Levites. And next to them was Anan, the son of Zachar, son of Mattanias, for they were accounted faithful. It was their office to distribute to their brethren. Remember me, O God, in this, and let not my kindness be forgotten, which I have wrought in regard to the house of the Lord God. In those days I saw in Judah men treading wine presses on the Sabbath, and carrying sheaves, and loading asses with both wine, and grapes, and figs, and every kind of burden, and bringing them into Jerusalem on the Sabbath day. And I testified in the day of their sale. Also there dwelt in it men bringing fish, and selling every kind of merchandise to the children of Judah, and in Jerusalem on the Sabbath. And I strove with the free children of Judah, and said to them, What is this evil thing which ye do, and profane the Sabbath day? Did not your fathers thus, and our God brought upon them, and upon us, and upon this city all these evils? And do ye bring additional wrath upon Israel by profaning the Sabbath? And it came to pass, when the gates were set up in Jerusalem before the Sabbath, that I spoke, and they shut the gates. And I gave orders that they should not be opened till after the Sabbath. And I set some of my servants at the gates, that none should bring in the burdens on the Sabbath day. So all the merchants lodged, and carried on traffic without Jerusalem once or twice. Then I testified against them, and said to them, Why do ye lodge in front of the wall? If ye do so again, I will stretch out my hand upon you. From that time they came not on the Sabbath. And I told the Levites who were purifying themselves, and came and kept the gates, that they should sanctify the Sabbath day. Remember me, O God, for these things, and spare me according to the abundance of thy mercy. And in those days I saw the Jews who had married women of Ashdod, of Ammon, and of Moab. Their children spoke half in the language of Ashdod, and did not know how to speak in the Jewish language. And I strove with them, and cursed them. I smote some of them, and plucked off their hair, and made them swear by God, saying, Ye shall not give your daughters to their sons, and ye shall not take of their daughters to your sons. Did not Solomon, king of Israel, sin thus? Though there was no king like him among many nations, and he was beloved of God, and God made him king over all Israel, yet strange women turned him aside. So we will not hearken to you to do all this evil, to break covenant with our God, to marry strange wives. And Eliasib the high priest, one of the sons of Joiada, being son-in-law of Sanballat the Uronite, I chased him away from me. Remember them, O God, for their false connection with the priesthood, and the breaking the covenant of the priesthood, and for defiling the Levites. So I purged them from all foreign connection, and established courses for the priests and the Levites, every man according to his work. And the offering of the wood-bearers was at certain set times, and in the times of the first fruits. Remember me, O our God, for good. Psalm 144, 145 in Hebrew, verses 1 through 9. David's Psalm of Praise. I will exalt thee, my God, my King, and I will bless thy name forever and ever. Every day will I bless thee, and I will praise thy name forever and ever. The Lord is great, and greatly to be praised, and there is no end of his greatness. Generation after generation shall praise thy works, and tell of thy power. And they shall speak of the glorious majesty of thy holiness, and recount thy wonders. And they shall speak of the power of thy terrible acts, and recount thy greatness. They shall utter the memory of the abundance of thy goodness, and shall exult in thy righteousness. The Lord is compassionate and merciful, long-suffering, and abundant in mercy. The Lord is good to those that wait on him, and his compassions are over all his works. Proverbs chapter 29, verses 13 through 18. When the creditor and debtor meet together, the Lord oversees them both. When a king judges the poor in truth, his throne shall be established for a testimony. Stripes and reproofs give wisdom, but an erring child disgraces his parents. When the ungodly abound, sins abound, but when they fall, the righteous are warned. Chasten thy son, and he shall give thee rest, and he shall give honor to thy soul. There shall be no interpreter to a sinful nation, but he that observes the law is blessed. The Acts of the Apostles, chapter 7, verses 22 through 43. And Moses was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians, and was mighty in words and in deeds. And when he was full 40 years old, it came into his heart to visit his brethren, the children of Israel. And seeing one of them suffer wrong, he defended him, and avenged him that was oppressed, and smote the Egyptian. For he supposed his brethren would have understood how that God by his hand would deliver them, but they understood not. The next day he showed himself unto them as they strove, and would have set them at one again, saying, Sirs, ye are brethren, why do ye wrong one another? But he that did his neighbor wrong thrust him away, saying, Who made thee a ruler and a judge over us? Wilt thou kill me, as thou didst the Egyptian yesterday? Then fled Moses at this saying, and was a stranger in the land of Madian, where he begat 2 sons. And when 40 years were expired, there appeared to him in the wilderness of Mount Sinai an angel of the Lord in a flame of fire in a bush. When Moses saw it, he wondered at the sight, and as he drew near to it, to behold it, the voice of the Lord came unto him, saying, I am the God of thy fathers, the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Then Moses trembled, and durst not behold. Then said the Lord to him, Put off thy shoes from thy feet, for thy place where thou standest is holy ground. I have seen the affliction of my people, which is in Egypt, and I have heard their groaning, and am come down to deliver them. And now come, I will send thee into Egypt. This Moses whom they refused, saying, Who made thee a ruler and a judge? The same did God send to be a ruler and a deliverer by the hand of the angel which appeared to him in the bush. He brought them out. After that he had showed wonders and signs in the land of Egypt, and in the Red Sea, and in the wilderness 40 years. This is that Moses, which said unto the children of Israel, A prophet shall the Lord your God raise up unto you of your brethren, like unto me, him shall ye hear. This is he that was in the church in the wilderness, with the angel which spake to him in the Mount Sinai, and with our fathers, who received the lively oracles to give unto us, to whom our fathers would not obey, but thrust him from them, and in their hearts turned back again into Egypt, saying unto Aaron, Make us gods to go before us. For as for this Moses, which brought us out of the land of Egypt, we wot not what is become of him. And they made a calf in those days, and offered sacrifice unto the idol, and rejoiced in the works of their own hands. Then God turned, and gave them up to worship the host of heaven, as it is written in the book of the prophets. O ye house of Israel, have ye offered to me slain beasts and sacrifices by the space of 40 years in the wilderness? Yea, ye took up the tabernacle of Moloch, and the star of your god Remphan, figures which ye made to worship them. And I will carry you away beyond Babylon.